When people hear the words Top Gun, most of us immediately picture fast jets slicing through the sky, aviator sunglasses, and that unmistakable movie soundtrack. But long before Hollywood turned it into pop culture legend, Top Gun was, and still is, a very real, very serious U.S. Navy program. It wasn't created to look cool or recruit pilots. It was created because American pilots were dying in combat, and the Navy needed to figure out why. So today, we're going to strip away the movie myths and get into the real story behind the U.S. Navy Top Gun program, what it actually is, why it was created, and how it permanently changed modern air combat. Right here, on History of Simple Things. The Top Gun program was born out of frustration and hard lessons learned during the Vietnam War. In the early 1960s, U.S. Navy pilots entered the conflict with cutting-edge aircraft like the F-4 Phantom II, armed with guided missiles that were supposed to make dogfighting obsolete. The belief was simple: future air combat would happen at long range, with missiles doing all the work. But real combat didn't cooperate with theory. Missiles failed, rules of engagement forced pilots into close-range fights, and many American aviators found themselves unprepared for old-fashioned dogfights against smaller, more agile enemy aircraft. The numbers were alarming. During World War II and the Korean War, U.S. pilots had achieved high kill ratios against enemy aircraft. In Vietnam, those ratios dropped sharply. Navy leaders realized the issue wasn't aircraft quality, it was training. Pilots were learning how to fly planes, but not how to fight them under realistic combat conditions. Something had to change. In 1969, the U.S. Navy officially established the Navy Fighter Weapons School at Naval Air Station Miramar in California. The goal wasn't to create elite show pilots. It was to create instructors who truly understood air combat. These pilots would study enemy tactics, analyze real combat data, and learn how to fight smarter, not just faster. Once trained, they would return to their squadrons and pass that knowledge on, multiplying the program's impact across the fleet. This approach was revolutionary. Instead of standardized training manuals and predictable exercises, Top Gun emphasized realism. Instructors flew aircraft that mimicked enemy fighters as closely as possible and used tactics based on actual Soviet doctrine. Pilots were pushed into uncomfortable, high-pressure situations that mirrored real combat. Mistakes were dissected in brutal detail, not to shame pilots, but to make sure those mistakes never happened again in the sky. Contrary to popular belief, Top Gun isn't about reckless flying or flashy maneuvers. It's about discipline, decision-making, and situational awareness. Students spend as much time in classrooms as they do in cockpits, learning aircraft capabilities, missile behavior, radar theory, and enemy strategies. Every engagement is carefully planned, flown, recorded, and reviewed frame by frame. One of the program's biggest strengths is debriefing. After each flight, instructors and students break down exactly what happened, what worked, what didn't, and why. Rank doesn't matter during these sessions. If you made a mistake, it gets exposed. That honesty is what makes the training effective. The goal isn't to prove you're the best pilot in the room. It's to make sure you survive and win in combat. The results were immediate and undeniable. After the introduction of Top Gun-trained instructors into the fleet, the U.S. Navy's air-to-air kill ratio in Vietnam dramatically improved. By the final years of the war, Navy pilots were achieving some of the highest success rates of the entire conflict. The Air Force, seeing these results, later created its own advanced fighter training programs based on similar principles. Top Gun proved that technology alone doesn't win wars, training does. A well-trained pilot in an older aircraft can defeat a less prepared opponent in a more advanced one. That lesson reshaped military aviation training worldwide and remains a cornerstone of modern air combat doctrine. In 1996, the Top Gun program moved from Miramar to Naval Air Station Fallon in Nevada, where it became part of the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center. Today, it continues to evolve, incorporating new aircraft like the F/A-18 Super Hornet and F-35 Lightning II, as well as modern threats such as electronic warfare and advanced missile systems. Despite the advanced technology, the core philosophy hasn't changed. Top Gun still exists to teach pilots how to think under pressure, adapt to unexpected situations, and outmaneuver an intelligent enemy. The jets may be newer and the battle space more complex, but the human element remains just as critical as it was in 1969. So when people talk about Top Gun as the pinnacle of aviation cool, they're only seeing the surface. At its heart, the U.S. Navy Top Gun program is about humility, preparation, and learning from failure before failure becomes fatal. It's not a trophy, it's a responsibility. Graduates don't leave as lone wolves. They leave as teachers, carrying hard-earned lessons back to the fleet. And that's what makes Top Gun truly legendary. Not the movies, not the jets, but the quiet fact that it exists to ensure pilots come home alive. And today, we're going to continue exploring the simple ideas behind complex systems that quietly shape the world around us. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.